What a lively boy you have there. I'm so glad you were born. Holding my son gently, I was immersed in joy. Everyone in the room cheered when they saw my son crying loudly. Then, my husband came in late. Look, the child we've always wanted. However, my husband didn't say anything upon seeing our newborn son. In fact, he didn't even change his expression. I could feel a tense atmosphere in the hospital room. Hey, say something. I couldn't bear it any longer and spoke up, but he didn't even look at me. Then, suddenly, Doctor, please do a DNA test. What? Everyone in the room, except my husband, showed their surprise. What are you talking about? Is that child really mine? Of course, he is. But my husband didn't believe it. We had so much trouble having a child. Something's definitely wrong. It must be another man's child. Calm down. The doctor who took care of me was an old friend. Therefore, he also tried to calm my husband. I won't accept it. Stop it, don't say things that don't make sense. You're one to talk, deceiving me. The conversation was going nowhere. Our pointless argument continued. Then the doctor made a suggestion to stop our quarrel. Let's do a DNA test to find out everything. A week later, when I went to hear the results, my husband was already there, smirking in a creepy way. And the doctor said something shocking. There's no parent-child relationship with the born child. However, there was an unbelievable truth hidden behind this. My name is Emily Johnson, a 30-year-old office worker. I married my husband, Mark, about 3 years ago. And I was due to give birth in a few months. It had been a long journey to get here, and there had been many challenges. Shouldn't we start thinking about having a child? Yes, we should. We started thinking about having a child after 2 years of marriage. As we were about to turn 30, we both wanted a child. We're not getting any younger, and I want to show our parents their grandchild soon. Yeah. My parents never really pushed us, but I think they were hinting at wanting grandchildren. After that, we spared no effort in trying to conceive a child. But it just wasn't happening. To make matters worse, my husband's frustration grew as time went by. Do you want to do it tonight? I'm tired, let's do it some other time. The frequency of our intimate moments decreased, and our relationship became strained. Before I knew it, I had turned 30. That's when I decided to talk to my sister, Natalie, who was already married with 3 kids. I see. How was it for you? I got pregnant pretty easily. Oh, I see. Why don't you try seducing him? That was my younger brother, Alex, chiming in. I couldn't help but sigh. Why are you even here? I thought it might be interesting. That's right, I remembered. Alex has always been quick to jump into anything he finds interesting. Well, Alex is like this, but maybe you can get some ideas from him. Exactly, like I said, just give him some stimulation. That's easier said than done. Just do it. After talking for about 2 hours, we parted ways. On my way home, I was deep in thought about what to do next, and before I knew it, I had arrived home. I entered the house with a bit of nervousness. Where have you been? I went to see my sister. Oh, okay. His response was indifferent. That night, I decided to wear my sexiest lingerie and tried to seduce my husband. What's gotten into you? He was clearly surprised. I just thought it might be nice for a change. Okay. That night, we were intimate for the first time in a long while. I felt fulfilled and happy. But that was the last time my husband and I were together in that way. I tried several times, but eventually, my husband stopped paying any attention to me. Not only did my husband stop paying attention to me, but he also started coming home increasingly late and hardly ever spent time at home. Are you going to be late again tonight? Yeah, so you can go to bed first. Okay. I started to question what it even meant to be married. My mood sank and I lost my appetite. I had thought that getting pregnant would bring back the gentle husband I knew, but we hadn't been intimate for months. Moreover, I started to suspect that he might be having an affair. I'm home. I'm tired, so I'm going to take a bath and then go to bed. Oh, let me take care of your suit. Thanks. It was when I was hanging his suit on a hanger that I noticed a sweet scent from the neckline. Upon closer inspection, it smelled like perfume. Definitely not something my husband would wear. Unsure of what to do, I impulsively called my sister. What's up at this hour? Well. I wasn't even sure how to explain it. Just calm down, take a few deep breaths. Following her advice, I took a few deep breaths. Feeling a bit calmer, I explained the situation to my sister. Mark's suit smells like perfume. Could be accidental, right? Like from a woman at his workplace. But it's on the collar. Is that likely? That does seem unusual. Should I confront him about it? My sister seemed thoughtful. It might be an option, but maybe not right now. Why not? Is there a reason? There's still a chance it's coincidental, and if you ask him now, he might just dodge the question. It's tough, but letting it go for now might be wise. Rushing into things could backfire. She had a point. If I hadn't talked to her, I might have confronted my husband right away. Okay, I'll follow your advice for now. Also, keep an eye out for anything unusual. And remember, you can always call me if something comes up. Okay. I hung up the phone. Feeling lighter than before the call. What are you doing there? Oh, nothing. I'm going to bed, don't stay up too late. Okay, I won't. My heart nearly stopped. I don't think he heard my conversation with my sister. But I worried if he was suspicious. I kept a close eye on my husband's actions. You've been coming home earlier lately. Yeah, work's calmed down a bit. Oh, really? Something on your mind? No, not really. After that, I didn't notice the perfume scent on his clothes anymore. Maybe, as my sister suggested, it was just a one-time thing. If everything stayed peaceful, that was fine by me. Then, 3 months after our intimate moments ceased, I noticed some changes in myself. I felt sluggish, and eating often made me nauseous. And then, my sister called. How have you been feeling? Mark's been normal, but... Oh! What? What is it? I told her about my recent physical symptoms. Then, my sister reacted with surprise. Are you serious? Yes, why? You might be pregnant. Wait a second. While still on the phone, I rummaged through my drawers and found a pregnancy test I didn't remember buying. I rushed to the bathroom to test. Waiting for the result was nerve-wracking. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant, sis. Really? Didn't you notice? Yes, I missed my period, but I thought it was nothing unusual. But that's great news. Yeah. I'll tell our parents. You should tell Mark. I felt over the moon. Finally, a baby. I eagerly awaited Mark's return home. When I heard the door, I rushed to greet him. Why the rush? I'm pregnant. Pregnant? Yes, I just took the test, and it's positive. I expected him to share my joy. But his reaction was not what I had imagined. So, I have a friend who works in obstetrics and gynecology. Really? Yeah. I'll talk to him. He's very skilled. Thank you. Despite my lingering doubts, I later went to the obstetrics and gynecology clinic that my husband recommended. The doctor in charge was Dr. Smith, my husband's friend. First of all, congratulations on your pregnancy. Thank you. But I'm unsure about my husband's feelings. Don't worry about that. He was just a bit confused. When I talked to him, he was actually happy. Really? Yeah. His words reassured me. I couldn't have handled it if he had said he didn't want the child now. The appointment was brief, and I returned home feeling uplifted. I'm home. Welcome back. How was it? Everything seems fine for now. That's great. It seemed Dr. Smith was right. My husband was just initially confused. I believed we could work through this together. At first, he was supportive with household chores and shopping as my pregnancy progressed. However, as my belly grew, he gradually became distant again. Have you heard anything from my husband? No, I haven't heard anything. I had a feeling Dr. Smith was avoiding my gaze. I see. I kept asking about my husband at every appointment. It almost felt pointless. What should I do? I hoped that once the baby was born, things would change for the better. Then one night, my husband suddenly accused me of infidelity. Have you been meeting someone lately? What? Who would I meet in this condition? Isn't that more your thing? Do you have any proof? I heard you're meeting men outside. That's not true. It was my brother, if you must know. Is that the truth? Do you want me to call him? Never mind. I get it. The atmosphere remained tense as the due date approached. The next day, labor started, and I headed to the hospital. My husband was at work, so I called my parents to accompany me. The birth canal is already opening a bit. Is that so? Let's head to the delivery room. Please take care of me. I was told I would be admitted to the hospital immediately after giving birth. My parents contacted my husband, but what about Mark? He's busy with work and can't make it to the birth. I see. Sorry for bothering you to contact him. Now that it's come to this, focus on your delivery. Yeah. I wondered if our recent argument had affected his decision not to come. Part of me couldn't help but think he might have been there otherwise. 4 hours after entering the delivery room, which is quick for a first birth, I safely gave birth. What a lively boy! I'm so glad you were born. I held my son and soaked in the joy. Everyone in the room cheered at my son's loud cries. I moved to my hospital room and fell asleep from the exhaustion of giving birth, with my parents by my side the whole time. Later, my husband arrived with Dr. Smith. Look, the child we've always wanted. However, he didn't say a word to our newborn son. Nor did his expression change. I felt a tense atmosphere in the room. Hey, say something. Unable to bear it, I spoke up, but he wouldn't even look at me. Then, shockingly, Doctor, please do a DNA test. What? Everyone except my husband was surprised. What are you talking about? Is that child really mine? Of course, he is. But my husband didn't believe it. We had so much trouble having a child. It must be someone else's. Calm down. Dr. Smith, who knew us, tried to calm my husband. I won't accept it. Stop it, don't talk nonsense. You're one to talk, deceiving me. The argument seemed pointless. The pointless argument between my husband and me continued even after that. Dr. Smith then suggested something to stop our argument. Let's do a DNA test. That will clarify everything. I apologize, but please do it. I caught a glimpse of my husband's face. It seemed like he was smirking faintly. Looking again, he was expressionless. I thought it might have been my imagination. Then, without a word to me, my husband left the hospital room. Tears naturally began to flow from my eyes. Then, my sister and brother entered the room. The baby is born, right? Sorry we're late, huh? Sis, read the room. My sister was smiling, but my brother's comment made her realize the situation. The room was again enveloped in an uneasy atmosphere. What happened? And where's your husband? He was here until a moment ago, but he left. He left? Yes. I explained everything to my sister and brother. As I spoke, tears streamed down my face again, remembering my husband's words. How dare he say that to my sweet sister? A DNA test? Ridiculous. It seemed like my sister was angry on my behalf. Meanwhile, my brother appeared deep in thought. Alex? What are you thinking so hard about? Well, I was wondering why he'd want a DNA test. Maybe he thinks Emily cheated? That could be it. He heard about me and Alex being together and misunderstood. What? That's ridiculous. My brother continued to mumble and shake his head. So, we just have to wait for the test results? Yes. It's definitely Mark's child. Then, my sister hugged me gently. Everything will be okay. We know how hard you've worked. Thank you. I made up my mind. If my husband insisted that much, I'd face it head on. The DNA test was conducted as he requested, and the results were due in a week. On the day of the result, I was guided to the consultation room, where my husband was already waiting. Smirking unpleasantly. Now we'll see if what I've been saying is true. I didn't respond to his taunt. Then, Dr. Smith took out the report. Let's get straight to the conclusion. Yes. The DNA test results show that there is no parent-child relationship between Mark and the newborn child. What? That can't be right. The child is supposed to be mine and Mark's. Then, laughing, Mark said, "See, I told you. It's not my child. I knew it from the start." The shocking result left me speechless. You're truly the worst, trying to pass off someone else's child as mine. That's not true. I wouldn't do that. But the results are right here. Mark pointed at me and said, "This means we have to get a divorce. This is your fault. I'll make sure to demand a hefty alimony." Then he left the consultation room, laughing. I was stunned, unable to think. My worried sister and brother, who had been waiting outside, came in. Just to be cautious, I had asked my sister and brother to wait outside for me. He just left laughing. I'll leave you two now. Thank you. So, what happened? The test says there's no parent-child relationship with Mark. Let's go back to your room for now. Yes. We returned to my room, and I was still in disbelief. I just can't believe this. I have something I want to check. Check? Yes. There's something I want you to do, Emily. My brother asked me to prepare something. Though I didn't know what it was for. I think it will be okay. I'm sorry to ask this of you, but please, I need your help. Then I received a call from Mark, who had just left. It's Mark. You should answer it. Okay. I put it on speaker and answered. As I said before, the divorce is definite. I told my parents, and they said to leave you quickly. Your parents too? Yes. And don't forget about the alimony and the hospital bills. Okay, I understand. I'm planning to hire a lawyer too. That's a waste, but do what you want. I will. Anyway, I'm busy with various preparations, so I'll contact you again later. With that, Mark ended the call. What a selfish man. Just stay calm. I think it'll be okay. Really? We'll do what we can. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital with my son. Natalie and Alex came to pick us up and we went back home. We planned to move my belongings out while Mark was at work. Upon arriving home. What's this? We've been outmaneuvered. Mark had moved all his belongings out while I was in the hospital. No, this might actually be an opportunity. Let's find what I asked you to get. All right. I collected Mark's hair and the toothbrush he left behind. Will this be enough? It should be fine, I think. Our home became our base of operations. I need to investigate something else. What? I heard from Natalie about the possibility of Mark cheating. I'll look into that just to be safe. Is that okay? Of course. Family helps each other. My brother busily started his investigation. I was grateful for his help, even as family. About a week later, Mark called again. What? Hey. We need to talk about the divorce. Make sure you come. A meeting? Yes. Let's settle this once and for all. Though I'm sure I'll win. We'll see about that. Just don't run away. Of course. Don't you run away either. After the call, we immediately started our final strategy meeting. The information my brother uncovered was shocking, and I believed it could bring Mark down. Finally, the day of the direct confrontation arrived. We each prepared lawyers for the negotiation. Natalie and Alex came with me to the meeting. I demanded divorce and alimony from this despicable woman. She tried to make me raise someone else's child. You seem very confident. And you seem too relaxed. You won't be so smug for long. I'm the victim here. Mark seemed utterly convinced of his victory. You talk big, but you might be the one paying alimony. What? Have you lost your mind? Alex, it's your turn. I've got this. Alex then stepped outside and returned with someone. Sorry to keep you waiting, sis. I've brought a key witness. Mark's eyes widened in shock. Why are you here? His surprise was understandable. Alex had brought Dr. Smith, who we had trusted. I'm sorry, Mark, but everything has been exposed. You used your friend Dr. Smith to falsify the DNA test results, didn't you? Bringing Smith here doesn't prove anything. Mark was still resistant. Then look at this, I said, showing him a paper. What's this? Why don't you read it? It's the result of a new DNA test. It clearly states that you and the baby are related. 100%. Alex confronted Mark. I had suspicions, so I got another test done, and it confirmed our relationship. Then, I confronted Dr. Smith, and he confessed that you paid him. And you were planning to use the alimony you got from me to pay him off? You're truly despicable. Darn it! Mark hit the table in frustration. There's more. Alex, please. Sure thing. Alex spread several photos on the table, showing Mark with a young woman. You accused me of cheating, yet here you are, the actual cheater. How did you get these? Well, I looked at Alex. I used to work as a trainee detective during my student days. I applied that knowledge here. And about the woman in these photos, she's a junior employee of yours. We've already reported it to your company. You did what? You're messing around. No, the one messing around is you. Dragging everyone into your mess. With all the evidence laid out, Mark had no escape. Now, let me state my demands clearly. Listen carefully. I handed over to my lawyer. I will now state Emily's demands. The lawyer presented the demands for divorce, alimony for the affair, child support, and addressed the issue of falsifying the DNA test. We also planned to claim alimony from the woman involved in the affair. Mark, once so confident, was now drained of all resistance. The divorce papers were handed over to my lawyer for processing. Do you have anything else you want to say? I'm willing to listen now. I thought I would get away with it. Life isn't that easy. Such a foolish man. What should I do now? That's not my problem. You should live with this regret. We left Mark, a shadow of his former self, and celebrated with my sister and brother. We can finally relax. I guess I did a good job. Of course, I'm grateful to Alex. I successfully divorced Mark. As per our agreement, I received alimony and child support in a lump sum. Mark didn't have the money, so his parents paid on his behalf. I'm sorry about everything, Emily. It's not your fault. You were deceived by Mark too. Did you receive the money all right? But didn't Mark pay that? We covered it for him. That's not right. In that case, despite my decision to not get involved anymore, I found myself calling in anger due to the overwhelming frustration. Hello? Is that Emily? What do you want? You had your parents cover the alimony? How low can you go? It's none of your business anymore. Yes, that's right. But I just had to say something. I couldn't rest without doing so. Afterward, I learned that Mark was disowned by his parents. Moreover, I've been disowned. Oh, that? I advise them to do so. What? Well, good luck with everything. Bye. And with that, I ended the call. I felt incredibly relieved. My actions also led to Mark and his affair partner losing their jobs. Eventually, he was abandoned by his affair partner and left alone. I checked on him. He's just scraping by with part-time jobs now. Is that so? Well, he got what he deserved. Truly a foolish man. I named my son Kevin, hoping he would grow up to be nothing like his father. Now, I look forward to a happy life with my beloved son, Kevin. As I prepared for my beloved daughter's surprise face for her graduation party, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey we've had. Raising 2 children alone after the divorce was tough, but it was the struggles we overcame as a family of 3 that made this happiness so meaningful. Humming to myself while setting up for the party, someone visited our house. Still in the middle of preparations, I thought of asking my son John to buy some more time as I opened the door, only to be met by an unexpected figure. "Hey there," he said casually, lifting one hand. His appearance could easily be mistaken for a homeless man. Shocked, I was rooted to the spot, unable to speak. "Dad?" I turned towards the voice to find that my 2 children came home. They stared at Rob with a mix of disgust and astonishment. My daughter Milena denied John's words, declaring this man is no longer her father, and tried to lead John into the house. "You can't live without me, can you? I could take care of you again, if you want." Everyone was stunned by his words, needing a few seconds to process. As we all laughed off his absurd statement, Rob looked confused at first, but then his face twisted in anger. He started ranting about not being mocked. "What's all this noise? What's going on?" Just then, someone from the house, drawn by the commotion, joined us outside. I took a deep breath and turned the tables on my ex-husband. "Let me introduce you to..." "John, wake up! I'm not gonna be responsible if you're late." "I am Carrie. I'm a 40-something housewife and a work-from-home. I hate to admit it, but the gap between the ideal 40-year-old I imagined and my actual life feels wider than the Grand Canyon. But having landed a decent job at an IT advertising agency, experienced some meaningful relationships, and married with a reasonably fulfilling life, I'm doing all right." While I'm doing the dishes in the kitchen, the sound of footsteps approaches from the 2nd floor as John, my middle school-age son, comes downstairs. As I wash away the dish soap suds along with John's unreasonable demand of why I didn't wake him up earlier, I retort that he should try coming down the stairs more quietly. John is too busy biting into his breakfast toast to listen to me. "It's really childish that you can't wake up on your own even in middle school," Milena, my high school-age daughter, said with an exasperated tone. She brings her used dishes to the kitchen for me. Milena is calm and confident in her academics, but like me, she's shy when it comes to love. She blushes and reverts to a typical teenage girl when the conversation turns to romance. I wonder how things are going with that boy from the basketball team. As Milena hands me the dishes, John, still with food in his mouth, starts complaining to her. Rob, my husband, who was busy on his phone, scolds him. Our mornings always start with such chaos. Rob was my senior at work who handled my training when I was new. He's earnest at heart but lacks attention to detail, and isn't reliable when it really matters. I never thought of him romantically back then, but couldn't refuse his persistent advances, which led to our marriage. That was the first time I realized I'm too easily persuaded. Rob recently got promoted to a manager position, which has led to more business trips. I'm happy about his promotion, but whenever I ask him when he's coming back, he always evades the question. Even when he does return and I try to massage his shoulders, he shakes me off irritably, telling me not to bother him. Lately, he's been on his phone all the time at home, and our interactions as a family have diminished. He's also been coming home late more often, even on days without business trips. I hesitate to ask why, so I never bring it up. Today, he's supposedly on another trip, but as usual, he won't tell me when he's returning. Yet, he randomly comes home and orders me to prepare meals as if it's the most natural thing. As I do the dishes and gently ask about his return, he explodes, "Enough. It's work, how am I supposed to know when I can come back?" His yell shatters the peaceful morning, freezing the atmosphere instantly. Barely preventing myself from dropping a plate in shock, I apologize to Rob. But he just leaves the living room with a guilty look, without a word. "Wait. You haven't given me this month's expenses yet." My words are cut off by the sound of the front door slamming shut. "Again, huh?" Milena says, turning to me as I return to the living room. Noticing John's trembling hand holding his mug, I try to lighten the awkward mood. "I guess I irritated Dad, who's already stressed with work. It's my fault." Milena rushes over to me, assuring me that it's not my fault. I gently hug her, trying to calm my turbulent emotions. Glancing at the clock, I notice it's just past the time for my children to head to school. I hurried them along to their schools. John mumbles something that sounds like I'm leaving, but with food still in his mouth, it's hard to understand. As he dashes off, a cloud of dust rises in his wake. Milena turned back to look at me with concern. I responded with a forced smile, but it seemed to fall flat. Her expression was hard to read against the backlight, but her figure radiated a sense of loneliness as she left. After sending them to schools, followed by silence as if I was in a dark cave side chamber at home. This quietness only amplifies the harsh words Rob hurled earlier, echoing throughout the house. As I locked the front door, I also shut out the negative emotions, slapping my cheeks to psych myself up. With Rob no longer contributing financially, I have to step up. I'm using my experience from my previous job, now working as a freelance web designer. There's some uncertainty with my current income, but I'm determined to earn more for my children's sake. I firmly planted my feet and struck a determined pose just as the washing machine signals the end of its cycle. It was a beautiful day with just one white cloud in the sky. Humming a song from a popular singer back in my school days, I took care to not strain my back with the laundry's weight. Rob's business trips have become more frequent, and it's rare for him to return home before 11 p.m. When I cautiously and indirectly inquire about his late returns, he dismisses it, saying it's none of my business. His vocabulary lately seems limited to dismissals, underestimation, and ignorance. Well, also shower, meal, and beer. I'm more shocked by his dwindling range of words than his increasingly negative attitude. Ignoring me as I stand there in shock, he heads to the bathroom. It takes me a while to snap out of it, but I'm okay. I'm fine. More than anything, my biggest worry now is our household finances. It's better to assume I can't count on any financial support from Rob. I still have some savings, but my freelance income is unstable, and a financial crisis could hit at any time. I decided to organize my bank accounts. One was for receiving freelance payments and everyday expenses. Another was for the mortgage with a trust bank. The last one was for emergencies, really dire situations. There's still money in the everyday account. So I don't need to worry about that right now. However, the trust bank account, while still holding funds, gives me a headache when I think about the nearly 20 years left on the mortgage. I don't want to think about it now, so I gently close the online banking. Then, there's the third one. I rarely check it, so the balance shouldn't have changed. But, it's been a while since I last checked, and I've forgotten how much is left. As I checked the transaction and traced the lines of numbers, I'm in denial about my worsening presbyopia. And let's not even start on the increasing fine lines around my eyes and mouth, how foundation doesn't sit well anymore, or how marks on my arm from dozing off at the desk don't fade easily anymore. I decided to stop belittling myself and faced reality. Focusing intently on the small numbers, I notice an unfamiliar withdrawal from recent dates. And it was not just a small amount. My children don't know about the accounts. Could it be a scam? But it would be strange for a thief to only take some of the money from this account. After pondering for a while, the thought of a man comes to mind. It caused an ache in my head that's incomparable to earlier. It's unlikely that Rob would return home while it's still light outside. It might as well hail tomorrow. As I watch the chicken grilling, I think to myself, it's fine when Rob is just lazily watching comedy shows on TV. But as soon as dinner time arrives, he's bound to start complaining about the meal being boring and unappetizing. Until recently, the only times I didn't have to think about anything were while cooking and using the restroom, but now, it's just depressing. I'm planning to ask him about the withdrawal from the emergency account, but it's hard to bring up. With my children cooped up in their rooms until dinner, this might be my chance, but I was unsure how to start the conversation. As I was contemplating, Rob standed up and headed to the bathroom. I felt conflicted, having missed a precious opportunity, but also relieved that I didn't have to bring up the money issue now. I noticed his phone left on the table and just then it vibrated, displaying the sender's name on the screen. Knowing that Rob takes his time in the bathroom, he won't be back for a while. I hesitated for a moment before approaching the table to peek at the phone's screen. My heart skipped a beat when I saw an unfamiliar woman's name. Then, as my heart started beating rapidly, my hands moved against my will. I caught a glimpse of a recent message. And just then, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I quickly restored the phone to its original position and placed it back on the table. "Mom, is dinner ready yet?" I told John that it would be ready soon and urged him to take his seat at the table. I'm sure tonight's complaints won't just be about the food. As I picked up a blackened chicken, I let out a sigh. Later that night, once everyone was asleep, I embarked on a secret mission. The message I saw earlier won't leave my mind. I have a gut feeling that it's my duty to investigate further. My hands and feet were trembling slightly. Resolved, I quietly stepped out of my room into the hallway. Rob and I have been sleeping in separate rooms. As long as I could hear him snoring from his room, he must have been sleeping soundly. It was worth the effort to encourage him to drink beer at dinner. I walked down the hallway, bent over, and slowly turned the doorknob. The stench of alcohol from the room almost made me want to hold my nose, but I couldn't afford to lose my balance. So, I continued breathing through my mouth and silently approached the bed. The phone's charging cable stretched from a nearby outlet to the bedside. Fortunately, Rob was lying on the opposite side from where the phone was. But if I unplug the charging cable, the phone screen will light up. I carefully pinched the charging cable and pulled it toward the edge of the bed. As I unplugged the cable, I pressed the phone screen against my chest. I felt numb, barely alive. After ensuring the screen was off, I quickly returned to my room. Unnoticed, my eyes had become wet, and I wiped them with the sleeve of my pajamas. Turning the phone on, I unlocked it. There didn't seem to be any new messages. I opened the messaging app and looked up the woman's name I had seen earlier. "Hawaii was so much fun. With you, Maria, anywhere is fun for me. Where should we go next? I want to go to France. But Rob, how do you manage the money?" "The money's secretly from my wife's savings." "Seriously? You're worse than I thought." "Well, it doesn't matter to us. We're getting married soon, right?" Between their messages were several photos from their trip. The tension I had felt earlier seemed like a lie. I was surprised at how calm I could be. Going back to Rob, who was sound asleep, I reconnected the charging cable to the phone and left it on the floor. Sliding back to my room, I stood in the middle for a while, playing with the darkness that filled the space. My tears had long dried. The next morning, I prepared breakfast for everyone more smoothly than usual. There was still time before my children woke up. Rob, with his bed hair and yawning, took his seat. I greeted him with a cold gaze. "Good morning." My greeting was like a breath of wind at sunrise, passing through him and dissipating in the air. "Who's Maria?" Rob's hand, bringing breakfast to his mouth, stopped. "Where did you find out?" "I saw it on your phone. I also know you've been stealing money from my account." He finally looked at me. His eyes were filled with cold anger, but they had no effect on me now. I want a divorce. I couldn't accept the conclusion he stated so quietly and decisively. The fault lies with you, doesn't it? How can you come to such a conclusion? First, give back the money. Before I could finish, a white plate with breakfast on it grazed my cheek. It shattered behind me as Rob barked, refusing to acknowledge a divorce like a wild beast. My children, having heard the commotion, entered just as he stormed out. As soon as Milena came to my side, all my strength left me, and I collapsed. Stay away from the broken dishes. They're dangerous. The first words I tried to utter were interrupted by my sobs, turning to nothing in my mouth. That day, I couldn't bring myself to do anything and had to apologize to a client for delaying a deadline. This is the first time I've ever had to postpone a deadline. When Rob returned from work, he slammed down a completed divorce form, gathered a few essentials, and left. His last words were, "You better sign it and contact a lawyer." Milena, who had recorded everything on her phone just in case, emerged from behind the curtains. John had also been waiting in another room, gripping a baseball bat. I told them to stop because it was dangerous, but they didn't listen. Thankfully, nothing happened this time, but the thought of a parent hurting their own child unnerved me. Both my children agreed with the divorce, but I hesitated. It felt too sudden. And I wasn't confident in my ability to financially support them on my own. After discussing and sharing my honest feelings with my children, we decided I would get divorced. Milena said she would contribute her part-time job earnings to the household, and John offered to help more with chores. I was reluctant to rely on my children, but we resolved to get through this together. A week had passed before we reached this conclusion. Both my children said they felt refreshed without Rob around. I had my own anxieties, but life felt less stressful without him. After consulting a lawyer, the divorce was duly finalized. The breeze that greeted me as I stepped outside the office left me feeling refreshed. 3 years have passed since then. Milena, busy with her studies, kept contributing her earnings from part-time work, for which I was immensely grateful. Despite my insistence for her to focus on her studies, we had a major argument over it. But without the money Milena earned from her job, our family might have fallen apart by now. As for her exams, unfortunately, she didn't get a good score. I feel responsible for this, and I truly regret it. Milena, taking a firm stance, reassures me, saying she chose this path herself. John's surprisingly good at household chores. He handles cleaning, laundry, and sometimes even cooks, significantly reducing my workload. However, he was uncomfortable with washing the female member's underwear, which caused a bit of a dispute. Reflecting on the past 3 years, a lot has happened. Life post-divorce was harder than before, but as a family of 3, we managed to overcome various difficulties. As I prepare a special feast for Milena, memories of these 3 years flash through my mind. Today, we're having a small party to celebrate her admission into medical school. She might not like it, but it was not only a celebration of her getting into that renowned university, but also to express our gratitude for everything up to now. I had a plan that was bound to succeed. John would take Milena out while I prepared for the party, and we'd surprise her when she returned. I hum naturally as I lay out dish after dish on the table. Then, the doorbell rings. Could my children have returned already? Still in the middle of preparations, I think of asking John to buy some more time as I open the door, only to find an unexpected person standing there. "Hey!" He greets me, raising one hand lightly. His hair is unkempt, dyed a bright color that has gone beyond mere gray hair coverage. His clothes are mismatched in style. He had an appearance that could be mistaken for a homeless person, depending on how you looked at him. Shocked, I'm rooted to the spot, unable to speak. "Dad?" I turn towards the voice and see both my children have returned. They look at Rob with a mix of disgust and astonishment. Milena denies his role as their father, pulling John towards the house. "You can't live without me, right? I can start supporting you again." Everyone is confused by his statement, taking a few seconds to process. Rob looks confused at our laughter, but his face soon twists in anger. "Don't mock me, don't laugh," he yells, but our attitude doesn't change. "What's all this noise? What's going on?" Hearing the commotion outside, a man emerged from our house. "Who are you?" I composed myself, stood up straight, and said firmly, "Let me introduce him, this is Michael. He's my husband." "Hello, Rob. I'm Michael." I hadn't told Michael Rob's name yet. Everyone looked at Michael suspiciously. Reading their expressions, he offered a professional smile and explained matter-of-factly. Michael was the president of an important client company where Rob currently worked. It seemed that Michael and Rob knew each other, but Rob acted as if he didn't remember him. "Was there an issue when you were suddenly replaced by another person during contract renewal?" After Michael's remark, Rob's face turned pale. As if he had just remembered Michael and realized something significant. I guessed that Rob must have been removed from his responsibility due to some misconduct. "Shut up. This is a clear case of infidelity. I haven't divorced her, and this house is mine, so I'm moving back in." I calmly explained that our divorce was legally finalized and that this wasn't infidelity, almost like reasoning with a tantrum-throwing child. It causing sweat to bead on Rob's temples. "Pay me alimony for me." I countered that he was the one who should pay. I had saved the exchange of messages between Rob and Maria from 3 years ago on my phone as a photo. I confronted him with evidence of him withdrawing money from my account and demanded repayment of $40,000. The emergency account originally contained an inheritance of $80,000 from my late parents, half of which Rob had squandered for his fleeting pleasures. Moreover, a power of attorney should have been required to withdraw that money. I certainly didn't write one. It meant that he must have forged my signature. I confronted him with the crime of forgery, explaining that he could be arrested if reported. Desperate but realizing he had no way out, Rob agreed to pay the alimony and repay the $40,000. Relieved at the resolution, we praised each other. "I have received this month's alimony payment." I put the counted money into an envelope and took a sip of my coffee. I wonder how many more times I will receive alimony payments at this cafe. As I stare at the rippling surface of the water in my cup, I'm lost in thought. Since that incident, Rob's life has taken a significant turn. The $40,000 repayment was made promptly, but considering his financial capacity, the alimony was decided to be paid in installments. Rob is now juggling jobs as a security guard and a janitor. Michael, the president of the company Rob used to work for, has ceased all transactions and future interactions with the company as a decision. I protested that it might be too harsh, but Michael, with a businesslike smile, insisted that Rob should be thankful that everything was settled amicably. It was the first time I found Michael's smile frightening. Losing a major client, Rob was inevitably fired from his company and seems to be struggling to make ends meet, repaying alimony while living a hard life. His face has become haggard, his complexion poor, always wearing the same clothes. "So, what about her? Maria, was it? What's she doing now?" Rob asked sarcastically, complaining that they were already divorced. According to him, Maria racked up an unreasonable debt and then disappeared, leaving Rob. Rob, the guarantor, is obligated to repay the debt, and he is paying my alimony and repaying the debt at the same time. Even though he's had a tough time, I wonder if it's too sympathetic to feel sorry for Rob. When Rob asked about my children, I briefly updated him on their status. Milena is excelling at medical school, attracting some attention. Though her strong character has apparently made her a few enemies. After the divorce turmoil, John, inspired by the incident, is now studying to become a lawyer specializing in infidelity cases. He might seem a bit unreliable, being bossed around by his sister, but I expect he will make a fine lawyer. Even without me, they have grown up well. After taking a sip from his cup and realizing it was empty, he placed it back on the saucer. "That's true. But if I hadn't married you, I might never have met Michael, so I'm a little thankful for that." You should be more grateful. Don't get cocky. I noticed Rob touching his left earlobe when embarrassed, a habit I had seen many times when we first started dating. When he was late for our date, when he accidentally dropped a bag of carp food into the pond, when he put the engagement ring on my finger. I cut off my nostalgic memories, picked up the bill, and headed to the cashier. Rob insisted on paying his part, but I quickly completed the payment, and he gave up on pursuing it further. We parted ways in front of the cafe, and I checked my appointment time with the doctor. I have plenty of time even if I walk slowly. When I announced to my children that I was expecting Michael's baby, both fainted from the shock. Then, Milena started lecturing me on the risks of advanced maternal age before suddenly listing things needed for the baby's arrival, ensuring everything was perfectly prepared. John initially reacted ambiguously before finally managing to say congratulations. He still seemed to be processing the sudden news. Michael's suggestion that I quit freelancing and focus on resting during the pregnancy was sound, but I love my work and wanted to continue. I persuaded him, somewhat forcefully, to let me work until the due date. On my way to the doctor, I passed a family with children. The little girl, being carried on her father's shoulders, was laughing joyfully. The mother, pushing a stroller with a baby inside, looked up at her husband and daughter with a happy expression. I am just as happy now as I was back then. I whispered to myself, clicking my heels as I walked away. Well, I guess marrying that old hag was impossible. I'm looking for a younger bride, so I canceled the engagement. My fiancé, who is just 1 year younger, called me an old hag. That alone was shocking, but to cancel the engagement too. My fiancé, Bob, had a captivating charm. Always surrounded by people, Bob carried himself with confidence. He cheated on me more than once, not just once or twice. Each time, I forgave him. I clenched my fist and welcomed Bob with a welcome home, and at night, I quietly shed tears of frustration alone. I couldn't take it anymore. I can't forgive Bob. No, maybe I've never truly forgiven him even once. I've just pretended and covered it up to be with him because I want to. Now, the backlash is hitting me all at once. I looked at Bob. Bob. I won't let your whims and selfishness control me anymore. From now on, I'll live by my own will. As the first step, let's give Bob a punishment. Now, are you prepared? My name is Catherine O'Connor. Just the other day, I celebrated my 32nd birthday with my ex-fiancé Bob. I've been in a relationship with Bob for 18 years. When we met, we were still in junior high school. Since then, it feels like I've been living according to Bob's whims. Nodding to Bob's selfishness, accepting Bob's requests. As we did that, both Bob and I crossed the age of 30. I began to think about marrying Bob, and I thought Bob would too. So he gave me an engagement ring. I thought that's why he gave it to me. I wonder how much more I can endure. The days of betrayal from Bob. I met Bob when I was a second-year junior high school student. Bob Reynolds, a first-year student who had just enrolled, confessed to me. "Please go out with me." "Huh, really?" I was taken aback. Being confessed to by someone I had just met was quite unexpected. But I also felt happy. Bob was already tall and handsome, and above all, I felt proud to be the one confessed to. I had a sense of superiority and excitement that I might date a boy before anyone else. So I nodded. "Sure, I'm Bob Reynolds. Nice to meet you." He called me that once, and then Bob blushed and looked at me. He hesitated and said something like this. "Is it okay if we hold hands?" "Huh, Bob?" "Sure, right, Catherine?" Mischievous voice and expression. That's when I completely fell for Bob. But the elation didn't last long. "Catherine, you're dating Bob, right?" "Oh, yeah." I wondered why my classmates knew about it. Perhaps my confusion showed, as another classmate chimed in. "Bob has been spreading the word. If you're a student at this school, everyone probably knows." "What, Bob?" I couldn't believe it. Why would you do something like that? After school, I asked Bob that question. If it gets to the teacher, it'll be a big problem. I'm sorry. But I was so happy. I wanted everyone to know that Catherine is my girlfriend. Bob answered, his head down. Be more careful next time. Yeah, I'd be happy if you could. At this point, I forgave Bob. In fact, I found Bob cute beyond words. If I had a little brother, would I feel this way? No. Back then, I recognized that he was a much more annoying yet sweet presence than a little brother. That's why Bob's initial betrayal hurt so much. A mocking voice saying, "She's the school's top beauty, huh?" It was so different from what was directed at me that I didn't immediately realize it was Bob's voice. However, once I did, there was no mistaking it was him. During school break time, I was about to visit Bob's class when I overheard that exchange in the hallway. This school isn't low level, is it? She's below average there. But her figure is good, isn't it? Oh yeah, her chest? Her boobs are definitely big. I'm looking forward to that. Well, that's a relief. Bob is a man after all. Oh, yeah. Sleazy laughter erupted. A group of boys, with Bob at the center, had gathered. They seemed to be excited about my appearance. I leaned against the wall, unable to move from the spot. My legs were trembling. Catherine, are you okay? Oh, yeah. My classmates came over, suspicious of my behavior. Unaware, Bob continued to frolic with the other boys. What's with that? So low. It's important to go along with the conversation. I answered, my voice choked with tears. Catherine. I guess he's embarrassed by the teasing from others. That's why he said such things. My words stopped there. Tears started to overflow. Accompanied by my classmates, I cried as I went back to my classroom. From then on, Bob often darkened my heart. If there was a girl at another school who was popular, he would immediately go after her. It seems that some of them actually tried to get serious with Bob. Catherine, you have to go. Spurred on by my classmates, I headed to the scene of Bob's date with his affair. When he saw me, Bob's face turned pale. Catherine. Who's this? The girl he was cheating with was prettier than many others. If I had left things as they were, maybe Bob would have moved on to her. Suppressing my desire to run away, I answered. I'm Bob's girlfriend. Catherine. Bob called my name almost like a scream. The other girl gave Bob a stern look. Oh. Wait. You've been lying. That's the worst. No, it's not like that. Bob watched her leave with a pained voice and expression. Left behind, Bob turned to me, looking completely frightened. Catherine, I need to tell you something. What do you mean? My voice was cold. In response, Bob floundered like a fish out of water, opening and closing his mouth. But eventually, he seemed to find an excuse. She was so persistent. Whenever I confronted him, Bob would always say this. It was just one date. You're my main girl, Catherine. Yeah. I nodded. Not because I was convinced, but because I knew arguing further wouldn't make Bob apologize. And more than anything, I didn't want to be disliked by Bob for nagging about his affairs. What started as a relationship of superiority had become dominated by Bob. Even about my future, Bob insisted I choose a high school that suited his academic level and convenience. We should go to the same high school, right? Yeah, but my teacher said I could go to a better one. Are you going to abandon me? Bob looked at me with tearful eyes. At this point, I could see through his fake tears. Still, I couldn't stand up to him. Okay, I'll go to the same high school as you, Bob. Great! Wait for me there, Catherine. When his opinion prevailed, Bob showed a sweet smile. It was a reward for me, and I kept pushing myself just to see that smile. When I told my parents which high school I wanted to go to, my mom openly showed her disappointment in me. Why are you going to such a boring high school? That's right. You should graduate from a decent college and get a job with a future. My dad added. But I insisted, all my friends are going to that high school, using a poor lie. In reality, my friends had chosen better high schools. And I knew there was no benefit in matching my choices to Bob's poor academic performance. Lying to my parents like this was a first for me. I was torn between feeling guilty towards my parents and keeping my promise to Bob. I'm disappointed in you, they said, ending the conversation. From the next day, my parents visibly started treating me differently. In contrast, Bob was in a great mood. Catherine, thank you. Now we'll be together in high school too. Yeah. I was confused about whether I was doing the right thing or making a mistake. Bob was smiling. All that mattered was that. After starting high school, I frequently had troubles with my parents. I spent too much on in-game purchases this month. Is the game that interesting? Yeah, it's really fun. You should try it, Catherine. Maybe I will. The casual game I started in such a light-hearted manner turned out to be the beginning of new troubles. Normally, I wouldn't have cared so much. Because I never really liked the game. The problem was its friend feature. Players cooperated in events, and Bob invited me to the game for this purpose. Catherine, your character is weak. Pull more gacha to strengthen our team. I'm sorry. Following Bob's directions in the game, our characters did get stronger. But the spending increased too. My mom noticed. Not only did you go to a bad school, now you're wasting money on games. What are you doing? But my friends. If those are your friends, you're better off alone. Don't say that. For the first time, I talked back to my mom. I wouldn't let her say Bob wasn't good for me. Talking back to your parents. Mom looked angry and sad, a complex expression on her face. Since then, I hardly spoke with my parents. When I discussed this with Bob, he showed his usual smile. That's fine. It's your life, Catherine. Is it? I wondered if Bob saying that was appropriate. Was I really living my life? Or was I just following Bob's orders, forced into a life convenient for him? By the time I realized this, it was too late. After graduating from high school, I chose to work. My parents had completely given up on me. I couldn't even think of going to college. Especially since Bob seemed against the idea. Catherine, you wouldn't betray me, right? Yeah. I nodded as usual. Bob had dropped out of high school. There's no need for me at school after Catherine graduates. But in reality, it was due to a conflict with a teacher. No company wanted to hire Bob with only a middle school education. At best, he could only find part-time jobs, and even there, he often caused trouble. That boss is so arrogant, it's annoying. Did you quit your job again? I asked, feeling somewhat fed up. By this time, Bob and I had started living together. After my parents found out about my relationship with Bob, they finally kicked me out. Bob, who had a strained relationship with his family, moved into my apartment with just his belongings. It's the start of a fun life together. Yeah. Bob seemed genuinely happy. But I was just forcing a smile. I knew it would just be more trouble. People around me said I should break up with Bob. He's just a freeloader now. He's trying to work, at least. He wants to. But I saw him skip work and go to the gaming arcade. Who said that? My voice was cold. My friends gradually started distancing themselves from me. I knew. I knew they were right. Bob wasn't thinking about my happiness. But I thought I couldn't be happy without Bob. I really believed that. Then it happened. I can't marry an old lady. I'm gonna find a younger fiancé, so our engagement is off, lol. Bob took off the engagement ring from my finger and declared. Bob! I was out of my mind. Bob's smile was no longer sweet. It was a nasty smirk, looking down on me. Catherine, you're 32, right? Not young, clearly. I'm only a year older than you. I tried a futile retort. Bob was always dismissive about his own age. He simply wanted to switch to a younger, cuter girl. And Bob had already cheated on me with several girls. He was good-looking and knew how to charm. Seducing girls was easy for him. The relationships didn't last because of Bob's selfish nature and financial unreliability. I was the witness to that. The biggest victim of Bob's deceit. So, thanks for everything. Bye, Catherine. Bob waved his hand flippantly. The ring he had taken from my finger gripped in it. I wondered who he intended to give that ring to next. I thought to myself. And then, I made a decision. Bob, I won't let you have your way anymore. Goodbye, Bob. Oh, you understand? That's my Catherine, always got why I liked you. Is that so? It seemed like Bob's feelings for me were a thing of the past. Maybe they never existed in the first place. Now that you understand, please leave. Huh? Forgot? I'm the one who rented this apartment. Ah, I see. So you're kicking me out, huh? Bob said with a thin smile. Bob smirked, thinking I was joking. I smiled too. And those clothes. What? Everything you're wearing, I bought it. Well, keep the underwear. But return the rest. I'll sell them to a thrift store. You're telling me to leave in just my underwear? Bob shouted. I must have at least one outfit I bought myself. Nope. I have the receipts if you need proof. Receipts? Yes, from the clothing store. I kept all of them, along with every bill, groceries, utilities, everything. What the heck? Bob's voice grew pitiful. You don't need to take the toothbrush, right? And since we have 2 sets of dishes, I'll throw them out. Then at least give me. No. You can only take what you bought yourself. Bob looked out the window in despair. It's snowing outside. Yeah. I nodded calmly. Bob, shivering, begged. At least let me keep the jacket, please. Fine. You can wear what's underneath. But not the jacket. It's a brand worth good money. I smiled emptily. The jacket I bought for Bob. He had insisted, and I had indulged him. Just a year ago. The black long coat looked great on him. At that time, I was so proud. You're a devil. I'm fine with being a devil. I'm just an old lady anyway. I waved my hand at the door and closed it. Thinking I need to change the locks soon. I had taken back the spare key from Bob, but he might still have another one. You'll regret treating me this way. I'll never see you again. I heard Bob's parting words. I slumped down, holding my head. I was anxious. I had impulsively broken up with him, but could I really come to hate Bob? After all the time we spent together. Bob would no longer be in my coming days. I had lost his smile forever. I lifted my head, leaning against the door, and began to laugh. Bob is gone, he's really gone. I finally felt free. There was a sense of relief and fulfillment. Bob had long ceased to be a romantic interest. I was just with him out of inertia. Being with Bob meant constantly worrying about upsetting him, making it impossible to be myself. I understand that clearly now. I don't need you anymore, Bob. This turned out to be just right. He left on his own. A single tear ran down my cheek. Ah! I realized then. I had written him off long ago. He was nothing but harmful to me, and I was surprised at my own weakness for having turned a blind eye. And yet, there was a slight feeling of loneliness. But that feeling would end today. Get ready for tomorrow, Bob. I looked around the empty room and murmured. Let's do this. I was switching gears. It was going to be busy. The first thing to do was definitely changing the locks. The landlord said, "It's good you broke up. Your boyfriend was not well liked in the apartment." Is that so? I accepted the words more calmly than I thought I would. The old me would have been furious. Any negative talk about Bob was unbearable. But now, it's different. Like a cloudy sky clearing up rapidly, my thoughts were also becoming clear. Please take care of the lock change. Sure, I'll handle it, replied the landlord with a firm nod. As I was halfway up the stairs back to my apartment, another tenant stopped me. Excuse me. What can I do for you? You were engaged to Bob, right? It's ex-fiancé now. Oh, so you broke up. The tenant furrowed her brows in distress. After looking around, she, appearing to be about a college student's age, said, "Please come to my apartment." Why? I've been harassed by him. He spread rumors that we're dating, and his stalking has gotten worse. It's scary. Therefore, she said, looking intently at me, clasping her hands together as if in prayer. He said he'd marry me after breaking up with you. What? But you seem normal, not like the terrible woman he described. He spoke ill of me? I couldn't hide my dismay. Guided by her, I visited her room. There, I was told about Bob's disturbing behavior, which was truly disheartening to hear. I knew he sometimes took money from my wallet, but to buy you gifts with it? Yes. He barely works, yet he's always splurging. Turns out, he was stealing from his fiancée's wallet. I looked up at the ceiling, astounded. While drinking the tea she offered, the woman said, I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. It's okay. We're both suffering because of the same man. I replied with a wry smile. But now, we need to think about the future. The future? She blinked in surprise. I said, yes. How are we going to deal with Bob now? I shared my ideas with her. And she listened intently, nodding and interjecting occasionally. Then I added something important. I actually knew about you before. What? She looked shocked. It was a natural reaction. Even though we lived in the same apartment, our paths rarely crossed. Our interaction was limited to nodding in the hallways due to different life rhythms. I pulled out a bundle of documents from my shoe. Please don't be upset when you open this. I had all of Bob's affairs investigated by a private detective. What? She looked at me. Her eyes filled with a mix of fear and surprise. I smiled reassuringly, trying to ease her tension. The report said that Bob was the one obsessively fixating on you one-sidedly. Please believe me. I have nothing to do with him. I believe you. Please calm down. Thank you. She sighed in relief. The report clarified that out of 5 women, 3 were in clear romantic relationships with Bob. You and another woman were just being pursued by him. Is that so? There are others suffering the same as me. Emily hung her head, visibly pained. Knowing there were others in similar situations probably evoked empathy and sympathy in her. I leaned in slightly and suggested, shall we meet them? Meet them? Yes, the 3 of us, together with you, can confront Bob. Confront him? But how? Through legal action, I said, emphasizing my words. First, let's consult the police and get a stalking assessment. Bob isn't smart enough to give up easily. We'll have our chance to press charges. To use me as bait to lure him? That's not what I meant. I was flustered. Indeed. It sounded like I was imposing danger on her. As I was about to retract my suggestion, she nodded. I'll do it. Do what? I'll be the bait. If it means defeating him. Are you sure? I felt like I saw a fire in her eyes. Then, from now on, we're allies. Yes. Oh, I'm Emily Johnson, by the way. She introduced herself, a bit belatedly but politely. This introduction led to Emily and me becoming closer. Unaware of our plans, Bob, as expected, continued to press Emily for marriage. I decided it was time to confront Bob. together with Emily. Seeing me, Bob screamed in shock. "What the heck, Emily, why are you with Catherine?" "We are allies," Emily replied, avoiding his gaze. "It's not just us." "Why are you all here?" Bob exclaimed, bewildered. 4 young and beautiful women appeared. They were all women Bob had pursued. One of them, like Emily, had been a victim of his stalking, and looked at Bob with anger-filled eyes. The other 3 acknowledged they had been in relationships with Bob, under the pretense of marriage. In essence, all of them had been deceived by Bob. "I didn't know you had a fiancé, Bob. It's a misunderstanding. I've already broken up with her." "Then what about the other girls?" "They all seem to think they're going to marry you, including me." "Ah." Including myself, there were 6 of us women. Among them, a particularly assertive woman was enraged to learn Bob had played with her feelings. When she realized that Bob had deceived her just for fun, she became furiously angry with immense intensity. Now, she was confronting him. Bob, being yelled at by the woman, turned to me with tearful eyes. With tears in his eyes, he said, "Catherine, it was you, wasn't it? You told them all." "Yes, I did," I replied, tilting my head. "But Bob, you're the one who deceived everyone." "Even so, to call them all at once. Help, forgive me." Bob was surrounded by the other women, each airing their grievances. Everyone had been genuinely in love with Bob. I understood. I had felt the same way. Watching Bob and the women, I felt a mix of pride and strangeness. A year has passed since that incident. Emily and I continued to stay in touch, now visiting each other's apartments. So, you see. As I was talking, my smartphone rang. I chose to ignore it, continuing my story. Emily looked puzzled. "Aren't you going to answer that, Catherine?" "Oh, it's fine. It's nothing important." "Really?" Emily blinked in surprise. I smiled wryly, already knowing who was calling. It was Bob. "Bob keeps calling me every time he gets a new girlfriend." "Why?" "He's upset because Ashley tells each new girlfriend about his past. He wants me to make her stop." "Oh." Emily sighed, seeming to expect such behavior from Ashley, who was one of the women confronting Bob that day. I doubt she'd listen even if I asked her. She's not the type to easily heed others' advice. "I guess so." We shared a bitter laugh. Bob's calls came at all hours. During meals, at work, even while I was with friends. "Enough already." Once, unable to bear it, I answered his call. Bob sounded desperate. "Please, make her stop. Ashley's making my life hell." "You brought this on yourself," I replied, thinking about the evening's plans. Tonight was a potluck party at Emily's house. My friend Emily and her friends were gathering to enjoy a winter night around a hot pot. Excited for the evening, I wasn't really listening to Bob's complaints. I just said what was on my mind, nothing more. "You made 6 women, including me, unhappy. That's a fact you have to live with. You talk about bearing consequences, but I'm not even dating anyone now. Emily treats me like a stalker. Every time I find a new girlfriend, instead of starting over, thanks to Ashley's interference, they all end up leaving me. I can't help you with that." Ashley's grudge seemed deep. Even if I tried to stop her, it wouldn't mean much. "Is that all you called for? Just that? What's with your cold response? Don't you feel a bit sorry for me?" "No, I don't. I'm a heartless old lady, remember?" With that, I ended the call. Then, I muttered to myself, "I'm still bothered by being called old." Surprised by my own reaction, I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. That's when I saw him. "Oh, Catherine. Long time no see." A man was approaching with a smile. At first, I didn't recognize him, but there was a hint of familiarity in his smile. Thanks to that, I was able to recall who he was. "Michael?" Mom told me to come by this area. Never thought I'd run into you, Catherine. The cheerful man was Michael, my childhood friend. Bob kept contacting me even after all that had happened. I was amazed and exasperated by his relentless efforts, but I continued to ignore him. I once changed my phone number, but he even showed up at my apartment, making it hard to turn him away. So, I reluctantly kept the same number and just ignored his calls. I can have a serious talk with him if you want. No, it's fine. I've decided not to get involved with Bob anymore. Okay then. Michael seemed a bit disappointed as he nodded. He had returned from New York for a matchmaking meeting arranged by his mother. How about you, Catherine? No, I'm estranged from my parents. That's harsh. Michael frowned. Your ex really messed up your life. I was naive. I dreamed and depended on him. Now I understand. Bob was the center of my life, constantly worrying about his mood, living on his words. I'm fine now. I can walk alone. If you say so. Michael seemed not fully convinced. To assure him, I pulled out something. What's that? My college diploma. I secretly enrolled in an online university while I was with Bob. I didn't want to disappoint my parents who had hopes for me. But I couldn't betray Bob either. So I chose to study in my spare time. That's surprising. Michael laughed heartily. That's good, right? Now you can aim for a career upgrade. Yeah, maybe. We laughed together, then my phone rang again. Michael scratched his head and said, Hey, Catherine. What? Why don't you date me instead? What are you talking about? I was dumbfounded. The phone kept ringing. Just because you don't like arranged meetings. It's not about that. Michael's voice was serious. His smile had faded, replaced by a look of tension. I've always had feelings for you. Are you joking? I'm serious. Michael argued with a flushed face. Seeing him like that, I couldn't help but smile genuinely. I eventually gave in to Michael's persistence and started dating him. Being the same age as Michael played a part, but we also connected well in conversation. This was a refreshing change from my time with Bob, where I always had to conform to his ways. The ease and openness I found in my relationship with Michael felt almost surreal. The calls from Bob still continued. Each time the phone rang, Michael would look annoyed or sad. But when I took his hand and smiled, he'd relax. It's okay. You're here with me. Catherine. Michael looked momentarily uneasy, but then nodded firmly. I'll protect you, Catherine. I'm an old lady, you know. If you're an old lady, then I'm an old man. We're the same age. Right. Maybe those words didn't hold much weight for Michael. But they helped me finally break free from the curse of being called old. $76,000 should be there. William, my son, who has been sending me money for 7 years. However, the bank account shows barely anything. Why? When I asked the bank clerk, I was told that someone has been withdrawing money regularly. Hearing this, I suddenly remembered something. Iris, William's wife, drives me to the hospital once a month. I always enjoyed our monthly drives. But one day, I saw her rummaging through my purse while I was in the doctor's office. Not only that, I once caught her talking on the phone in a sweet voice I'd never heard, saying, "Meet me at our usual place tonight." Iris was betraying both me and William. We confronted her. We have all the evidence. At first, Iris denied it, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." But eventually, she couldn't escape and retorted, "We're a family. What's wrong with using family money?" William and I were shocked to see the always smiling and gentle Iris turn into a completely different person. Discovering the true nature of my daughter-in-law was terrifying. My name is Maria Brown, and I'm 65 years old. I met my husband through a friend's introduction. He was quiet but kind and considerate. Our conversation flowed from our first meeting, and we soon fell in love. After dating for about a year, we got married. Our wedding was attended by family, friends, and colleagues, making it a memorable and wonderful time. Then our son William was born, and we were living a happy and prosperous life. But that happiness didn't last. That morning was just like any other, a normal day. See you later. Have a good day. I saw my husband off to work and was getting ready to leave myself. On my way to work, a call came from an unknown number. Hello? Is this Maria Brown? Your husband has been in an accident. It was the police. I felt the blood drain from my face. A chill ran through me, and I hurried to the hospital. Is my husband okay? He's all right, isn't he? I was trembling as I grasped the doctor's shoulder. I'm sorry, but... No! I was just 32 at the time. After getting married and having a child, just when it felt like our life was truly beginning. I broke down in tears. And so, I became a widow in my 30s. I was determined to protect my precious son at all costs. Since then, I've raised William by myself. I worked multiple jobs, day and night. To avoid making William feel lonely, I took Sundays off to go out with him, and we went on many trips. When William was in middle school, while most kids his age were becoming rebellious, he was different. Mom, you're working too hard. Take a break, he would say, and brew me coffee. When I come home from school, William sometimes says, I'll cook dinner today, and makes us a meal. He's always been considerate like that. I wonder if he got his kindness from his late father. It makes me happy to think so. One day, he came running up to me with a sudden inspiration. Mom, I've found what I want to do. What, all of a sudden? What do you want to do? Yeah. I will be in high school soon. I've been thinking about my future dreams. And I realized, I want to be a teacher, he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. He told me how he had gotten into international music recently. He loved the music but didn't understand the lyrics, so he started translating them into English and loving sharing with his friends. That's great. I'm rooting for you. Then he went to a high school and later to university. The university expenses were hefty, and honestly, our finances were tight, but seeing him go to study happily every day made me think, all right, let's keep pushing on. Eventually, he graduated from university. He got the teacher certification, fulfilling his dream of becoming a middle school teacher. 20 years ago, from today, after he'd been teaching for a few years. He said, Mom, there's someone I want you to meet, and brought home a lovely woman. Nice to meet you. I'm Iris. I'm dating William. She was William's girlfriend. He had had a few girlfriends before, but this was the first time he formally introduced one to me. No way. William said, we're thinking of getting married. So, they came to introduce me to his future wife. My eyes welled up with tears as I looked into his earnest eyes. He's grown up so well. William told me he met Iris at a social gathering. Watching them talk about how they met, they looked so happy, and it was heartwarming. Iris was friendly and easy to talk to. While I felt a little sad about being apart from my son, I was happy for him finding a good wife. And then they got married. They had a daughter, Emma. 16 years have passed since then, and my granddaughter Emma is now in high school. After retiring, I worked part-time for a while, but now I'm living on my pension. Perhaps because I worked too hard when I was younger, I now suffer from rheumatism and can't walk without a cane. I visit the doctor once a month, but the taxi fare to and from the hospital is honestly a strain financially. A few years ago, William and his family bought a condo near me. Grandma! We're here! Mom, how are you feeling? Oh, welcome. Thanks for coming as always. Well, not bad, I replied with a smile. Is Iris not with you today? She's at work again today. Mom's been really busy with work lately and hardly home. Oh, that's tough. At first, they used to come over often as a family of 3, but recently, Iris has been busy and we haven't seen much of her. I wanted to talk to you about something today, Mom. Talk. I wondered what he meant, and then he said, "Why don't you move in with us?" What? Mom, with your rheumatism and difficulty walking, it'd be more reassuring to have someone around, right? Luckily, we've got an extra room in our place. What do you think? Honestly, with my mobility issues, life had been challenging and I had my worries, so his offer was very welcome. But I had heard stories about in-laws moving in and causing friction in the marriage. Not wanting to cause any trouble and hoping for my son and his wife to live happily together, I said, I'd be sad to leave my familiar home. But thank you for worrying about me. Grandma. Well then, I'll deposit some money into your bank account every month. Please use that. You don't have to. I'm fine, really. What are you talking about? I know the medical and taxi expenses are a strain, aren't they? You've taken care of me all these years, let me do this much. William, thank you. A week later, my son's family came to visit again. Iris was with them this time, which had been rare lately. Maria, it's been a while. It's been a while. I heard you've been busy with work. You don't have to overdo it. Well, a little. But I'm not overdoing it. I wanted to see you, Iris said with a smile. I'm happy to see you too, Iris. Oh, I have an idea. I'll start driving you to the hospital. Iris works as an insurance saleswoman. So she has a flexible schedule and access to a company car, making it easy for her to provide transportation. But, seeing me looking apologetic, they said, it's okay. Iris is offering, after all. Right, Grandma. Let's ask Mom, okay? Are you sure it's all right? I don't want to impose. Of course, it's okay. William and Emma were all for it, so I accepted Iris's offer. From then on, once a month, Iris would drive me to the hospital. The drives with just Iris and me turned out to be really fun. She's a great conversationalist, and these trips were much more enjoyable than going alone. I even found myself looking forward to hospital days. But one day, as usual, I left my purse with Iris and went for my appointment. You seem to be doing well. Good. Thank you. After about 30 minutes and a bit of chatting, I returned to the waiting room. I was stunned to see Iris, who waited in the waiting room, going through my purse. What? Iris was taking my wallet out of my purse and looking inside. Why? I wanted to speak up, but hesitated. After watching her skillfully put the wallet back into my purse, I approached her. Iris, thanks for coming with me. No problem. Let's head back home. Iris acted as if nothing had happened. I couldn't bring myself to confront her. That night, Iris, William, and Emma came over. William, you're always so. Iris laughed as usual, unchanged. She's always been kind and considerate to me and the family. It's hard to believe she would rummage through someone's purse. What I saw today must have been a mistake. It has to be. I convinced myself. Years passed. I've been keeping my husband in his hometown cemetery, but since getting rheumatoid arthritis, I've found it hard to visit. I was thinking of asking someone to maintain the cemetery. I was happy to find it, but now, what should I do? The cost of treating my rheumatoid arthritis had been high, and I couldn't afford to keep the maintenance. I wanted to keep the place well for my husband, but it just wasn't feasible. Searching online, I found it would cost. It's impossible. Disheartened by the harsh reality, I sat on the sofa and sighed heavily. Then William called. Oh my, William. What's up? How did it go with the cemetery? It seems the maintenance fees are not cheap. I ended up venting to my son. Then William said, if the money I've been depositing monthly has added up, use that. And if it's not enough, I'll pitch in. Don't hesitate to ask. I had completely forgotten about the money William had been depositing. It was in a different bank than the one where my pension was deposited, and I never used it, so I hadn't withdrawn anything yet. Oh, right. Thank you so much. After hanging up, I decided to go to the bank to withdraw the money. When I checked my account, I saw a balance of only $9. What? I haven't withdrawn anything. Panicked, I asked the bank clerk to check. William had indeed deposited about $76,000 over the past 7 years. However, someone had been regularly withdrawing money using my cash card. I had no idea how this could have happened. I thought about telling William, but imagining how hard he worked to deposit that money, I felt too guilty to say, it's somehow gone. I was ashamed of myself for neglecting the account for 7 years. And then, on another day, Iris was again providing transportation for my hospital visit. She was chatting and smiling as usual. After my appointment, I returned to the waiting room and overheard. It appeared that Iris was on the phone with someone. Then, tonight at our usual place. Don't worry, I told my husband it's a company dinner. After a while, she ended the call. Iris was speaking in a sweet voice I had never heard her use before. Hearing her say she told her husband she was at a company drinking party, I instantly thought, is she having an affair? No way. Could it be? I could feel cold sweat running down my spine. I couldn't bring myself to speak to Iris and walked away. Sitting alone in the cafeteria, Iris found me. It seemed like she was looking for me. Maria, did you get lost? She asked with a smile. That smile sent a chill down my spine. After she dropped me off at home, I called William. William, about Iris today. Iris? Oh, she's having dinner with her colleague. Why, what's up? Oh, nothing. Just wondering. Suspicious. I agonized for days. Could Iris be having an affair? Should I tell William? One weekend, with Emma at the sports club, William came to visit alone. William. There's something difficult to say. I decided to talk about Iris. I couldn't stand it anymore. William listened silently without saying a word. After about 10 seconds of silence, he spoke. Sure, she's been busy with work lately, but I can't believe she would cheat. Of course, he would be shocked to suddenly hear his wife is cheating. Faced with my son's stubborn disbelief, I decided to show him something significant. Yes, the bank account where William had been depositing money. Actually, it's not just that. The money you've been depositing, there's only about $9 left in the account. When I asked the bank, they said the money was withdrawn on the days Iris took me to the hospital. No way! How? Why? William was shocked and wide-eyed. No, I'm not saying it's definitely Iris. Sorry for saying this. No, it's okay. Thanks for telling me. I'll look into it. 2 weeks later, William brought Iris to my house. She seemed confused, unaware of the reason. William, Iris, and I sat around the table. Normally, we would be chatting, but today was different. The air was heavy as William started to speak seriously. Iris, Mom, look at this, he said, showing the transaction details made with the bank card. Iris was startled when she saw it. You recognize this, right, Iris? I don't know what you're talking about. She was visibly flustered, her eyes darting around. Why is this in your wallet? The dates and times match when Mom was at her appointments, right? William stared at her intensely. Iris, panicking, said, How dare you look in my wallet? Yes, I checked your wallet. This proves the money was withdrawn from the hospital's ATM, right? I don't know anything about it. Don't just look through my stuff. That's awful. It seemed like she was desperately trying to blame my son in an attempt to escape responsibility. Who's the awful one here? You've been stealing the cash card from Mom's purse and using it. William shouted, causing Iris to visibly tremble. I was so happy when you drove me to the hospital every month. But using the money William deposited for me, that's just too much. Iris, cornered by our questions, suddenly snorted and retorted, That money William put in is for the family, right? There's no problem with me using it. It's not your money. William and I were astounded by her response. But Iris didn't stop berating us. Why don't you just appreciate that I was driving Maria around? It's fine to take some money as taxi fare. Why are you two getting so angry? After all the kindness I've shown, I deserve some gratitude for my behavior so far. Iris had a demonic look. She had always been smiling and friendly. Her attitude now was terrifying. Then tell us what you spent that money on. I've deposited $76,000 for Mom over 7 years, and almost all of it's been withdrawn. Explain that. William demanded, anger in his voice. Well, I'm a woman, and I want to stay beautiful. I just used it for some beauty expenses. Iris claimed she had inadvertently used my money for cosmetics and clothes. Then William placed a photo in front of Iris. Her face went pale as she looked at it. It was a picture of Iris and a man, shoulder to shoulder, about to enter a motel. Why? How could this be? Iris seemed completely taken aback and confused. Actually, after hearing my story, William had hired a detective agency to investigate his wife's infidelity. The affair partner is apparently a supervisor at the same company as Iris. This supervisor, around the same age as Iris, is married with 2 daughters. If he's married with kids, he probably doesn't have much money to spare either. You needed money for motel stays and dinners, didn't you? How did you find out? It was just a fling with him. Don't lie. You've been involved for 5 years, right? William said, showing her more photos. There's more evidence. Iris, her face red with anger, began to lash out at us. So what? It's okay to have a little fun. I've worked hard raising our daughter. I need a break too. Being with an ordinary guy like William isn't fun. This man is more exciting, and the thrill of an affair was enjoyable. William doesn't pay attention to me, and it's creepy how he always cares about your mom. And Maria. Why do I have to entertain an old lady every month? I deserve to have fun with my affair partner. I used the money to have fun with him and for his birthday gifts. Iris confessed angrily, as if she was unrepentant. Just then, our granddaughter Emma appeared from the back room. Mom, I can't believe this. Emma, did you hear all that? I know everything. How? Actually, after William became aware of Iris's infidelity, he was prepared for divorce and looked gloomy every day. Noticing her father's unusual demeanor, Emma learned about her mother's affair. I can't forgive her for betraying Dad and Grandma, she exclaimed in anger. So, William, Emma, and I had a discussion and planned to confront Iris at my house today. No, Emma, it's not like that. I'm going to break up with him, okay? Iris desperately tried to make excuses. Emma said, Mom, you had an affair with a coworker, right? And he's married too. And you used the money Dad saved for Grandma for him? That's it, said Iris. Disgusting. You're the worst, Emma said and looked at Iris with contempt and rejection. Iris was visibly shocked by this and broke down crying. Later, William and I went to Iris's company. Nice to meet you. I'm the husband of Iris. And I'm his mother. About 20 colleagues from Iris's department and a few clients who seemed to be there for insurance consultations were present. The room began to buzz. How can I help you? Is Oliver Smith here? Yes, that's me. This man was Iris's affair partner. My wife seems to have been under your care for quite a while, William said, and Oliver's face turned pale. No, I mean, the money Iris embezzled was actually what my son had been depositing for me. I live in a wheelchair, you know? I'm so sorry. Oliver apologized to us. According to Oliver, he felt lonely due to minimal conversation with his wife, who was tired from household chores and part-time work, and their teenage daughters. He grew close to Iris, his subordinate, and they ended up having an affair. Don't you have daughters? I have a precious daughter too. Aren't you ashamed to do this? Well, that's... As the affair partner was fumbling and troubled, Iris arrived, possibly returning from a sales call. Seeing my son and me, she seemed to realize the situation and became flustered. What are you doing here? We came to see your affair partner, William said with a big smile. The colleagues, witnessing our family drama, began to whisper among themselves. So they were really having an affair, and to think she was embezzling money from her wheelchair-bound mother-in-law, that's awful. Iris and Oliver seemed quite uncomfortable. Customers who had overheard the commotion were saying, "Wow, an affair between employees. Better not sign any contracts here, it might get messy later. Let's leave. Can't trust this insurance company at all, I'm out of here," and with that, they left the store one after the other. Later, the rumor of Iris and Oliver's affair spread rapidly among the company and its clients, leading to many cancellations. Consequently, due to the damage to the company's reputation, both were effectively fired. Iris, having lost her job, desperately apologized to William and Emma. However, it was later revealed through information from Iris's colleagues that she had affairs with multiple men at the company. William and Emma were furious and immediately kicked Iris out of the house. The next day, Iris's parents came to my house with her. We deeply apologize for our daughter's inexcusable behavior. Iris' father apologized. However, Iris' mother, perhaps overly indulgent of her daughter, started defending her. Sure, what my daughter did was wrong, but doesn't your son also share some of the blame? Affairs aren't just one person's fault, and she's a victim because the man approached her, she said, starting to defend her daughter. Iris' father scolded her mother, "Enough. I said we came here to apologize today." He made Iris and her mother both apologized. "We are truly sorry. I'll take responsibility for the $76,000 William had deposited for you, which Iris used. We'll get it from her." Iris, hearing her father's words, turned pale. Iris and her mother seemed unable to defy her father. As promised, a few days later, $76,000 was transferred to the designated account. After that, William and Iris got divorced. William claimed child support from Iris. Iris ended up owing alimony and child support to Emma and the $76,000 her parents had covered. Iris deserved it. Since then, Iris struggled to find a job and, after relying on Oliver, became incommunicado when he returned to his hometown. Abandoned by those around her and burdened with debt, she worked multiple part-time jobs daily. I heard from neighbors that Iris, who used to be slightly overweight, had become gaunt, almost unrecognizable. As for me, after William's divorce, at my suggestion, he and Emma moved in with me, and we decided to live together as a family of 3. "I'm so happy to live with Grandma," Emma joyfully said, making me feel content. "Now, I look forward to a happy life with my kind son and lovely granddaughter." My name is Lee, 35 years old, divorced with no children. Formerly employed at a securities firm, I now use my past experience to live as a trader. Since my divorce, I've been living in this slightly aged but beloved condo. For a trader like me, weekdays are almost routine. Today, like any other day, I step outside at 3:30 p.m. after the market closes. As I walk out through the well-maintained entrance, I take my usual route, pondering what to have for dinner tonight. That's when I hear an unexpected voice. It's from the beautiful tree-lined path in the large park in front of my place. Slowing my pace, I realize it's unmistakably his voice. "Hey, is that Lee?" It was indeed my ex-husband. I recognize his expression without even looking back. From his tone, I can almost see his sneering, sarcastic face. "What? Lee, the one dumped by you?" "Yeah, the one who has financial difficulties." "Financial difficulties?" I overhear this, but more than anything, I wish I hadn't heard the sickeningly sweet voice that followed. Suddenly, I'm reminded of that day 3 years ago. I stop walking but can't bring myself to turn around. Unconcerned about me, the two of them come around to stand in front of me. They stand there, arms entwined, mockingly facing me. Seriously, it's Lee. You're still alive, huh? Really, when you disappeared, I thought you might be gone for good. After I left, I didn't think she could survive. No job, in her mid-30s, not young anymore. Ever since she decided to marry me, she's been dependent on me. You're still alive. That's great. The woman imitates crying, mocking me, while the foolish man keeps provoking. Despite their age, they sound like children, and their voices bring back memories I'd rather forget. I met my ex-husband at a mixer in West Hollywood. At that time, I had just broken up with a longtime boyfriend for reasons beyond our control, and I was devastated. Barely managing my job and hardly eating, I was persuaded by friends who believed the best remedy for a broken heart is a good man. So, I was dragged to my first high-end party, the kind frequented by Beverly Hills girls. In this area, fancy parties attended by business executives and people in the entertainment industry are common. The party I was taken to was not that fancy, but a gathering of business people. The girls ranged from working models to ordinary female, but everyone was glamorous, and they looked nothing like ordinary people. I felt out of place in my suit, returning from work, amidst the glamorous crowd. Still nursing a broken heart, I wanted to leave as soon as possible. My ex-husband, however, took an interest in me. Not particularly proactive, I received his daily messages with indifference, but he persisted without being discouraged. Even when I only replied to his messages depending on my mood, my ex-husband never gave up and continued to contact me. He would even ambush me in front of my office, asking me out on dates to cheer me up. Whether I returned directly from client meetings or gave him a cold shoulder, he persistently pursued me. Eventually, he even started waiting in front of my place, having somehow figured out where I lived. In hindsight, it was perfect stalking behavior. But at that time, I wasn't thinking clearly. After 3 months of such relentless pursuit, my weakened state began to change. I thought, despite how I'm treating him, he's doing all this for me. And with that thought, I fell right into my ex-husband's trap. Once he realized my feelings had shifted, he quickly escalated things. He was sweet and kind, pretending to care deeply for me as he tightened his grip. Before I knew it, I was drawn into my ex-husband's world. Dating equals marriage, he implied, and soon enough, we were meeting each other's families. He convinced me to quit my job, saying that once we were married, he would be the one earning for us. Consequently, just a month after accepting him, I found myself in a rushed marriage. Under normal circumstances, I would never have allowed such intrusion into my life. Looking back, it's truly unbelievable. I was just pretending to accept everything, without any will of my own. That's how weak I was after my breakup with my ex. After quitting my job, I had too much time on my hands and gradually began to regain my true self. I, who was once a strong-willed workaholic, became a housewife dependent on my husband. My days were dull, just waiting for my husband. Gradually, I started feeling disconnected from my true self. Once I realized this, I knew I wanted to be an equal partner, not just someone to be protected. I wanted to be strong enough to protect my partner too. I was honest with my ex-husband about my feelings. That's why I want to start working again. It was who I truly was. However, my ex-husband didn't want that for me. Instead, he completely negated me. A woman should just be protected by a man. But... what? You want to earn more than me and show me up? Just because you broke up with a man, doesn't mean you should try to take control. When I heard this, I understood clearly. He was proud to have married a career woman from a top brokerage firm, and he enjoyed having the upper hand over her. Despite this, he never really listened to me. He even put a GPS on my phone to restrict my movements. Yet, while I was confined to the house, he started spending less time at home. There were also days when he would come home wearing the same scent as when we first met at those parties. Then one day, he brought a woman home and declared, "Your role is over. From today, I'm living here with her. Just get your stuff out. It was a sudden announcement of divorce. I was too shocked to move, and he yelled at me for being clingy. It's pitiful, stop it. She's just slow because she's old, said the sweet-voiced woman, probably in her mid-20s, blinking her eyes and speaking coyly. Despite knowing how selfish it was, I felt oddly resigned to this predictable turn of events. I accepted his words and signed the papers. I tried to pack, but my belongings were so few due to my semi-captive life that they hardly filled a suitcase, which made me bitterly smile. So this was my married life, I thought, when I heard his irritating voice again. Don't just stand there zoned out because you can't even eat properly. What? I didn't understand what he meant. What does he mean I can't eat properly? As I pondered this, he made another unexpected and surprising statement. You're receiving financial support, right? What? You've been dependent on me and can't work properly, right? I recalled he mentioned something similar earlier. Where did he get such information? No, that's not. Yeah, I know. You can't do anything. You are controlled by GPS. Don't try to hide behind your false pride. He ranted on. Beside me, a woman continues to smirk. So, why do you live in such an old place? Isn't this place sketchy? She must have seen me coming out of the building. She looks up at the old building and laughs exaggeratedly. Can't help it. Can't get anywhere to rent but a shabby place like this. We're different, aren't we? The look in her eyes as she looks down on me is filled with nothing but disgust, just like before. Watching these two, I find myself secretly holding back laughter. What am I doing? I confront them coldly. Really, you know nothing. They must see a different me than the one before. They're clearly confused. I said, you know nothing. Huh? You have the nerve to say such embarrassing things without knowing anything about me. My strong tone, laced with laughter, only adds to their confusion. They stare with tense faces, wondering what I'll say next. Where did you hear I was receiving financial support? That's just a rumor. From where? Well, just something you made up to bring me down after we split, right? If you keep saying it, you start believing it's true. Humans are stupid like that. Saying stupid with emphasis, my ex-husband's face turns red to the ears. I feel like hitting myself for ever being married to a man whose triumph is claiming his ex-high-flying stockbroker wife is having financial difficulties. This is the chance. It must be a prank by fate that we met, something we were never supposed to do. Maybe I'll play along. I have no intention of being in the same league as them, but I can't forgive what they've done. If they take the high ground, I'll give it back double. I decide and flip a switch within myself. This condo is a super popular vintage complex. It's home to musicians, artists, and executives. Sometimes celebrities live here too. It's so popular that it was hard even to get in. Their shocked faces look as if they're about to say, "What?" They probably don't even know what a vintage is. But they seem to have got the idea that it's expensive. That's probably why he easily took the bait. What? That's just some fancy foreign name. This is just an old, rundown place, right? Like an old public housing project. Stop lying. Huh? You don't know? What? Vintage condominiums are popular and valuable despite their age. Some even increase in value. Places where the kind of people I mentioned earlier struggle to find a favorite to live in. You didn't know that? My patronizing tone must make them feel quite ashamed. My ex-husband's face is visibly red with silence. And hey, you don't seriously think there's public housing in such a popular area, do you? Huh? This is a popular area in the city, with lots of high-end condominiums with tight security, not tower blocks. A quiet residential area close to the downtown. You didn't even know that? Oh! A high-end vintage condo in a quiet residential area, close to all places. You mean you've been wandering around without even knowing that? It's just a joke, right? Thank goodness. I thought my ex-husband was making a scene without any knowledge. That would be so embarrassing. I mean, oh, hi there. The person who happened to walk by in the middle of the conversation was our neighbor, out walking her dog. She greeted us with a beautiful smile, and I took the chance to ignore the two and chatted with her for a few minutes at the roadside. After she left with a polite nod, so, was that a famous actress? And what if she was? You actually know her. I'm a huge fan. Can you take a picture with me? Please? Come to think of it, I remember hearing him say she was his type while watching TV a long time ago. Despite liking such a classy and beautiful actress, my ex-husband was accustomed to attending flashy parties. From what I heard, celebrities and models frequented those parties, but that type of celebrity wouldn't usually set foot in such places. Reflecting on this, I probably appeared fresh and new to my ex-husband, given my unfamiliarity with that world. The woman in front of me also seemed more guy-friendly and demure back then than she does now. So obvious. I'm remembering all this as the woman, now dressed flamboyantly and looking furious, glares at me. Too bad. If you had stayed with me, you might have gotten to know her. Make sure to cherish the woman you chose. I intentionally grinned mockingly with a devilish expression. Even though you're supposedly a model, right? I couldn't stop smiling mockingly at the woman who couldn't hide her frustrated expression. What? Don't be stingy. How the heck are you living in a place like this? What, did you commit a crime or something? Unlike you, I haven't committed any crimes. My comment made my ex-husband frown and start to rage. What? You used to say it all the time. This money is what I earned. You don't deserve a penny. You're locked up in the house anyway, so you don't need clothes or anything, right? If you want them, earn your own money. And on top of that, you barely gave me any living expenses under the excuse that you were hardly ever home, saying a woman should just be protected. But instead of being protected, I was confined and scrimped on. It was the worst, wasn't it? Don't say I confined you. Sounds like economic abuse to me. What? And the daily verbal abuse. That's a violation of the Domestic Violence Prevention Act, right? What? I'm saying you're a criminal. My ex-husband's outburst suddenly quieted down, and he visibly paled. He's really easy to manipulate. That's why I'm grateful to you. Huh? Because you showed up, I was able to leave that abusive jerk. I'm grateful we got close in such a short time. Maybe. What? Did you deliberately overlook our affair to get out of the marriage? Well, you could say that. I cut off all marital relations citing mental health reasons. What? It's true I was mentally shattered by the abuse. No way could I deal with someone like that. It could have really broken me. What? You're the worst. The worst is what you turned me into by pushing me to my limits. That's... And actually, it wasn't all that bad for you, was it? What? Well, if I couldn't let off steam at home, I had to do it outside, right? I knew you were going to parties even after we got married. What? It was obvious. You came home reeking of strong makeup and perfume. Well, a man like you, who can't live without women, would seek everything outside if he can't find it at home. And once you get hooked, you go all out to win them over. You look good by general standards, a corporate elite, women at those parties fall for your type easily. I figured it was only a matter of time. Thinking back to my former self, I feel sick. I was exactly the type I just described. Even though I was vulnerable, I regret wasting my time like that. I want to scream at my past self. What? So you're saying I was just acting as you expected? Pretty much. What's that supposed to mean? But it worked out, didn't it? You got remarried to that model. It worked out for me too. Thanks to you rarely coming home, I got my mental health back on track, and more importantly, I made a lot of money with all that extra time. What? What do you mean? You didn't notice? I made a lot of money at home. How? Forgot? I was working hard at a securities company.
You can't be serious.
Yes, I increased it through trading. I was essentially a trader.
So, when we got divorced.
Right, I had already made millions.
What?
You never let me work after we got married and confined me, but you didn't care about me. I guess I was just a trophy wife to you, something to show off. So when it came to divorce, I knew you wouldn't bring up splitting assets because of your pride. And that's exactly what happened. Thanks to that, I could afford this vintage condo. My ex-husband just stares at my smiling face, saying thanks. Then, the woman standing beside him, who had been silent, suddenly pointed her finger.
Wait, are you married?
Oh, you noticed? I answer, smiling, thinking finally.
And what's with that sparkly ring?
Oh, it's from Harry Winston, it's got a beautiful cut.
Harry Winston!
He really liked it and insisted it would look perfect on my finger. Oh, that simple ring you have suits you well too. She quickly hides her finger and turns red, looking down. Sorry, I didn't mean to one-up you, it just happens. I was just responding to what was said, playing verbal catch. Then my ex-husband started saying something incomprehensible again. Hey, aren't you being fooled? What? A woman who made millions trading, living in a place like a vintage condo, and a guy comes after her? Are you sure that's okay? You don't need to worry about me.
What? I'm just concerned that my ex-wife might be getting scammed.
Mind your own business.
What? You!
The person I remarried is my ex-boyfriend from before I met you. We've been together since college, a connection that can't compare to what I had with you. Plus, he's now an independent businessman and CEO. He doesn't care about my wealth, unlike you. My ex-husband fell silent, realizing my current husband is on a different level. But after a moment of silence, he began to argue again. So, you must be living pretty comfortably, huh? What? You're raking it in as a trader, and your husband is a CEO. Living in a celebrity favorite vintage condo, right? So what? We're connected, after all. Let's be friends, okay? What is this guy talking about? Why on earth would I want to be friends with them? I've already cut ties with my ex-husband. It's crystal clear what he's aiming for. You're just trying to worm your way in, aren't you? What? Trying to snatch away the money you didn't get from the divorce settlement, right? My ex-husband's face turned red with an awkward expression. His intentions being too transparent. Maybe I should just say it then.
What?
I deliberately didn't claim alimony even though I knew I was entitled to it.
What? You're not planning to claim it now, are you?
You were the first one to try that, remember?
What?
To be precise, it's been just 2 years and 9 months since you handed me those divorce papers.
What? But it's been over 3 years since you noticed my affair. You were talking about perfume and all that.
Then
I'll claim my share of the divorce assets from you. I have rights too.
Too bad. The statute of limitations for divorce asset division is 2 years. Your rights have already expired. Tough luck. I never imagined I'd see a person shake in reality like this. How much should I claim? I say, and he starts to stammer out a plea. Beside him, the woman yawns with an indifferent look. As if she thinks she's not involved. Hey! What? You're also a target.
Huh?
It's obvious, isn't it? You had an affair with this man, knowing fully well that he was my spouse. It's only natural you should pay for that. The shaking voices of 2 people were irritating to my ears. No choice then. I decided to drop the biggest bomb to silence them. Hey!
What?
You seem to be earning quite a lot, doing a good job with your sales.
What?
Besides modeling, you seem to be working hard in other areas too. My sly grin made her realize something. How do you know that? She whispered, not even attempting to hide her trembling. My husband runs an event company, you know? Sometimes I help out there, and I've seen you there several times. Seems like you're quite good at charming those older gentlemen. The moment I put it into words, the woman turned pale and clammed up.
What? What does that mean?
Sam, not earning as much anymore?
What? No, it's the same. In fact, I'm earning more than before.
But your wife seems to be struggling for money?
Stop! Just stop!
But Sam is asking. Besides, it's about another job, so it's okay to talk about it, right?
What?
So tell me already. Your wife, she sometimes shows up at events related to my husband's business. Every time, she cozies up with men from the entertainment and advertising industries and disappears somewhere with them.
What?
Well, it's the same for both of you, isn't it?
What?
Sam, you're still showing up at parties, right?
What?
Former colleagues, you know, they kindly keep me updated. Lee's ex-husband, he's remarried, right? Saw him taking a girl home today. What's going on with him? They ask. The space around the three of us went silent. As I was pondering what to do next, a familiar voice called out to me from a distance. That's my husband.
What? That handsome guy? No way, that car, it's super luxurious.
Sorry, but it looks like he finished work early today. I've got to go, my husband is calling. The man stood dumbfounded, and the woman turned red with frustration. They really are two of a kind. From behind, as I turned away, I could hear them arguing again. Probably shouting something at me. But to me, they're already a thing of the past. Goodbye, I whispered to myself, moving forward. 2 weeks have passed since then, and we are sitting in a cafe, enjoying tea while looking at the bright sea. There seem to be some changes in those two, they appear to be separated now. According to my husband, she's about to be a divorcee, still cozying up to older men and even doing paid companionship lately. As for my ex-husband, former colleagues say he keeps bringing women home, asking them, I live alone, why don't we continue drinking at my place? Well, I had heard from you about how awful they were, but they really are a different breed of people. My husband says, savoring the rich aroma of his coffee. The whole thing started with my breakup with Sean, you know. Oh, right. It was so sudden. If I had more time to prepare, I could have gone abroad with him, avoiding all that wasted time. I look intently at my husband, who seems a bit tense. He was the boyfriend I had tearfully broken up with back then. He was a hardworking businessman, always wanting to work overseas since his younger days, and it just happened suddenly back then. As a top-performing stockbroker, I couldn't just abandon my job and go abroad, so I had to choose to part ways with the man I thought I'd spend my life with. I cut him off as he starts to say something. No need for excuses. I know there are things Sean as a single employee couldn't control, so it's nobody's fault, I say with a smile. He exhales relievedly. I can feel the cool, refreshing juice going down my throat, a drink I haven't had in a while. But it's complicated, isn't it? Even though it's someone else's business. It's not completely unrelated to me, though. Well, yes. But it's fine, isn't it? Once it's gotten to that point, it's none of my business anymore, and it's all due to their own actions. You're still so straightforward. They should be thankful I didn't demand alimony. I really thought about it at that time, claiming alimony. But, even if I got the money, nothing would change, and just the thought of spending money from such people makes my skin crawl. That's why it's okay, I say, enjoying the taste once again. By the way, why didn't you drink coffee today? Yeah. You used to love the coffee here, didn't you? Yes. My husband looks at me curiously as I pull out a photo from my bag. His hands tremble as he holds it, and his eyes seem to moisten. It's 9th week. Really? Is that our baby in your belly? Yes, that's why I had mixed juice today. Or rather, coffee's off limits for a while. I can't feel the bulge yet, but somehow, I sense the warmth of a new life, making my cheeks relax. You're looking like a mom now. What? Lee, you've got the face of a mom. He says this with a softened face, already resembling a dad. Then I guess we need to find a coffee Lee can drink. What? It's impossible for coffee-loving Lee to give up coffee until she gives birth, right? You're right. Some people change their preferences due to morning sickness and can't drink coffee, but I haven't had any of that. Then I'll start looking for something right away. He immediately took out his phone and, muttering this and that, began searching with a look of enjoyment. I could easily imagine him soon rummaging around for various things for our baby. Which made me smile unintentionally. What are you laughing at? I was just thinking how happy I am. Hearing my words, my husband quickly replied with I'm happy too. When our child is born, our happiness will grow even more. I'm glad I met a future where I can smile. It's undoubtedly thanks to the person in front of me. Thank you. No worries. I want to weave more and more happiness with this joyfully smiling person. Tomorrow, the day after, 10 years from now, even 100 years later. With that thought in mind, I gazed at the photo on the table and wished for it fervently.